Welcome back to the Silent Podcast, where we are anything but silent. And I am Mark, and I'm here with the Amazing Race exit press for our latest team to leave the Amazing Race, a team that is left their mark in the season, left their mark all over the world, came in fourth place. Steve and Anna Leigh, how are you today?
We're great.
We're
How are you?
awesome. Thanks for so much for having us.
Oh, it's absolutely my pleasure. It's been a blast watching all season. How was it like watching last night? Like that must have been a lot.
It's stressful. It's every week watching, to me, stressful. It brings back all those feelings, and there were a bunch of them.
There were so many feelings and emotions, and I cried. I know he cried. It's a horrible feeling.
But I mean, like you guys had like such a fun race, anyways. I mean, obviously it was stressful in the moment, but it was I think one of the more fun races to watch for people playing the season personally.
We
Yeah.
did, and editing has a lot to do with that. But we really had a lot of good times in there, and a lot of fun times that you don't get to see on TV. That we laughed and carried on, and yeah, we said it before. We're going to have those memories the rest of our lives. So I don't care what other people think. We had a great run, and I think we ran a pretty good race.
I mean, that's great to hear. Actually, I was going to ask a question about your edit because obviously I feel like you guys had one of the more complex edits. I feel like you guys had sort of the anti-hero edit to a certain extent. Um, how did it feel when you guys were having a good time on the race and seeing that, not seeing that come across necessarily on the show?
I will say it's horrible because I'm getting a ton of backlash, and we know that there was so many moments that we were like, for sure they're going to show that, but they've just completely eliminated it. Like we can name on our hand so many times every episode that we've like cried laughing together, but it's nowhere shown. And we've even heard them like take moments where I'm saying like, come on, dad, for example, and
Use it again.
yeah, they're like using the same sound bit again. And so we know that it's part of the edits. Like, of course, I was encouraging him and stuff too, but they're not showing any of that. So it's really, really hard to watch back because the way people see it, like even the swim thing. Explain that.
That when I yelled at Anna Leigh, I said, Anna Leigh, let me take my shoes off. And they only played the Anna Leigh part, and it sounded like I was yelling for her, and I was yelling for her to give me a second. I was taking my shoes off. But
It just sounded so sad. I was
the race itself was the real deal. I figured if I ran a mile here, a mile there, I'd be great. But whoo, boy, I'd train a lot harder for next time. But
Steps to your friends, clearly.
no, I think we ran everything pretty well. We had some directions. Our navigation wasn't the best, and a right turn here or left turn there, it cost us, and it does everybody at some point.
Understandable. Did you guys submit before? And like, what's like your history of the show? Did you watch from the beginning, or yeah?
Yeah, growing up when I was a little girl, he would always, because when I was too young to understand like what it was, he would present some of the challenges to me, and we would kind of do them at the house and just compete together. And growing up, he's always seen me compete. He's been at all my competitions. I've gotten a lot of my grit and determination from him. So it's just been a big part of my upbringing is to compete. And
it always looked easy on TV.
Yeah.
I always said, "Oh man, we can breeze through this." The Amazing Race is the real deal. They challenge you physically, mentally. It's not, as far as editing goes, it's not edited, to make it look harder than it is. It's hard. You better be in shape both ways, physically and mentally.
I believe that. So what was your strategy going into the game? I know you guys were talking about working as a team, which you do see that in the edit. But like, what teams were you also working with?
We had an alliance with Liam and Jeremy and Todd and Ashley. We were kind of like the little, crew that always stuck together. I feel like we helped each other out a lot. Of course, edits don't show that. Like they show me going against Todd, which is not how that happened. But
it ended up being, the whole cast. We never really ran into any bitterness, ugliness around the race course. We didn't see each other a whole lot. So when we did, everybody was pleasant. Everybody was helpful. And even though we had these alliances, I don't know if they really helped us because everybody kind of helped each other when the opportunity presented itself.
Well, that's good. So I heard that Anna Leigh was like on the flights was like asking flight attendants for phrases and other small, not legs up, but like things I think were pretty smart in the race. Can you expand upon that?
Yeah, I mean, as I'm actually currently getting my private pilot license right now, and
Cool.
I've worked as a private flight attendant. So I know that you can actually speed up when you're in the air. It's just like a car. You can speed up when you're in the air. And so I knew that, and I knew we were going to land like 30 minutes, I think, behind the other flight at one point. And so I actually talked to one of the pilots and asked if there's any possibility of making up some ground in the air. And they said, yeah, they can save us like 5 to 10 minutes, which in the race, 5 to 10 minutes is a long time.
Adds up over a day.
So, and then flight attendants, I used every opportunity I could because I hoped that they had been to the place that we were going. And most of them had already been there. So they were able to tell us like some of the main structures and some of the ways to get around. And they were actually the one who tipped me off on paying one of the taxi drivers beforehand, like before we got to the destination, so that we could take care of that. She's like, yeah, you should pay him before because there's nothing stopping you. So that's why we did that.
I mean, it's smart. That's just smart. So something kicked in like in leg 3. Like I feel like you guys were like in the middle of the pack, and the next thing you know, you're just in the first place. Was it like just shaking off jitters or just getting like having the race kick in?
I think we kind of made a decision after that second leg that we were going to, on our any kind of challenge that we came up against, we tried to pick one with a beginning and an end. If it was building something, it was whatever it was, we didn't want to leave it to a judge. We tried to avoid the judges at all costs and do something, a task that had a beginning and an end, because we knew we could blow through it. Working together, we can get through any of those projects, but leaving it up to somebody judging us, that's subjective. So we didn't want to be stuck waiting on somebody to say, hey, this is good or that's bad.
And I will say too that it kind of takes you a few legs to get in the flow of it, to like figure out how the race works and what they're looking for, and just getting in the flow. And so I think it took us those first few legs to kind of realize, okay, we're in this, like how do we keep going?
Oh, totally. And it shows, like, because that leg, you do win the first half of the mega leg. How did it feel to win that and be like, oh my god, we're gonna win a prize? It feels like
no prize.
Keep racing.
Well, it's because they said there's no non-elimination legs, but that was one. That was it. So I'm like,
and that was a non-prize leg. I said, look in your other pocket. Yeah. I want to see what's in your other pocket. Something else has to be there.
And I mean, you did win a leg pretty shortly after, which was leg 5, which is pretty good. And how'd that feel to find like I got a prize? Is there a second prize, Phil?
Oh my gosh.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
It was wonderful. Coming off the that fourth leg where the tiles were, we actually got there so far ahead of everybody, and that was just a needle in the haystack. Whoever found it first, and Chelsea and Robin walked in, and Chelsea walked down and found hers in 5 minutes, and it took us 50 minutes to find ours. We took second on that, but we stayed in the top of the pack. And even on the U-turn leg, we caught the first place team on the U-turn leg, and we were loading side by side with them, and they stopped us and sent us back to the first one. So we were actually double U-turn. We had to go back again. We really were,
yeah. Because and we had conversations too. Like we asked if it was okay to keep going, and there was a miscommunication somewhere. And
at the end of each task, you're required to have that receipt, and we assumed because it's a U-turn, we didn't need both receipts. We only needed one receipt.
So we asked.
And I don't know. I guess we should have just cashed that first one in. I think we'd been right back at the top of the pack again. But hindsight's 2020.
But I mean, you guys are the second team to survive a voting U-turn. Like Colin and Christy were the first, and you guys are joining them, which is a pretty great spot to join. How did that motivate you for the future? I mean, I know Annalie, like you were at like another level for the rest of the race after that. But how did that make you guys feel like surviving U-turn and what it brought to your energy-wise the rest of the game?
I think it gave us the courage to know that we're in it. We have every opportunity of winning this thing, just like everybody else does. And there's no reason why we can't really go for it. And in that moment, I remember thinking, all right, the game has started. Like now it's time to do absolutely everything in my power to win this thing.
And it's kind of changed my mentality of, at first I started off, we don't want to be last, anything but last. And we just keep going through the race. And then it kind of changed. No, we want to stay in the top of the pack. We want to lead this thing as much as we can.
And it's like a mind game thing too, because the first leg, like he said, the only thing you want is to not be last. But then as time goes on, you're like, well, if I can only get into top 10, or if we could just get into top 5, and then it's top 3, it's like, it never ends. It's never enough until you win.
Totally. So with the Express Pass, which is literally one of the best episodes of the whole season of like watching 4 teams try to get that Express Pass. You guys obviously, you didn't see the sign. I understand it was a small sign saying no, but I have a question. Like when you get to the top of there after trudging up those stairs and trudge up more later, did you ask to zip line down or did they just let you zip line down?
Well, I actually asked for oxygen and water, but they didn't have either. Yeah, I took the zip line.
Yeah, we didn't ask. We didn't know. It didn't say anything on the clue to or not to. It didn't say anything about that. So
It was just a funny thing. It's like my brain was watching, like, oh no, the pass is gone. We're gonna have to walk all the way back down those steps. It'll be
I don't
easier,
think
but
they
still
wanted-
1,100 steps.
Well, you know what? I saw the flag. I was looking for the yellow and the red, the Amazing
Yeah.
Race guide.
I thought it
saw
was a
it.
guide.
I
Yeah.
didn't see the little scribble mark
Right.
down the middle.
It's a little piece of tape
But it
that said
makes me
taken.
feel better. Yeah, it makes me feel better that Todd and Ashley missed it too, because it's like we just ran right past it, just like Dad said. They must have gotten a little Sharpie and said take
Yeah,
it
that
on
was
there.
a
We didn't-
ballpoint pen. That wasn't a Sharpie.
So I have to talk about last week's episode. Annalie, you destroyed that maypole competition. Have you built a maypole before, or are you just really good at like arts and crafts in that way?
He's really like looking back, I kind of wish Dad would have done it. I think he would have done it actually faster than I could have, but I just
Something that we picked up on there too was a lot of people were critiquing her, saying, "Well, hers was a little bit sloppy." Well, if you notice, the judge was counting flowers. She wasn't looking at the neatness of it. She was looking at, did you get the 6 red, the 5 yellow, the 2 pink? That's what she caught on to. She
And I
stuck her
noticed
flowers
that.
in there and got the count just to see what the critique was, and that's what it was. That's what
Yeah.
she looked for, was to make sure you had the parts all there, not how it's put together, and
Yeah.
boom, we were gone.
And I learned that in India with the dancing on
With the bowls, yeah.
was they weren't looking for every single movement to be perfect. They were making sure that you could finish the dance without dropping the bowls. And so stuff like that, you never know what they're looking for, but you never know what they're looking for until you try. So you can train however you want, thinking it's going to be perfect, but until you try and find out what they're looking for, you won't know.
Right.
So, Steve, we have to talk about last night when you made your stage debut at the Gaiety Theater, dancing River Dance, which is such a like. I'm a theater nerd, so I was just like, I'm like, oh my god, they're doing the Gaiety Theater. And then I saw I knew about the River Dance because I saw the preview. What was it like realizing you were going to have to do 30 seconds of a very intense dance? And Annalie, watching your father do that dance the best that he could, I think was 9 times.
Well, we've
we
danced
messed up,
our whole lives, so
Right.
I thought a dancing competition I was going to be fine. But here in Texas, all of our country western dances are sliding and gliding. There's none of that hopping and bopping. I wasn't into the hopping and bopping. I tried. I had a very good instructor, and she finally said, grab my hand. And if you notice that last try, I grabbed those 2 girls' hand. They kind of guided me.
Well, and the thing is too, is we messed up our count. We could have sworn that we were even, but then when it came down to it, he had to do both. I couldn't.
Oh, that's
do-
why. Okay.
Yeah.
So it was 6 and 6, but we missed one somewhere. We forgot that I did it. That's why going back, we wished he would have done the maypole so that I could have.
Yeah.
Dancing.
So you
And I
made it
felt-
out there in one try.
I was comfortable doing it, and going down on my first attempt, I thought, okay, I'll it's going to take me a couple times, but I'll get through this. And then they made me put on those high heel shoes, and I've never walked in high heel shoes before. And you saw Corey almost fall down in his. It was a whole different feeling when
Welcome
you
to
put
the
those shoes.
life.
Yeah, I know. When you put those shoes on, it's
But
different.
you know what they missed on that was the funniest thing in the world. So we're
Oh,
sitting
Lord.
there watching, and it's Garrett and I at that point. And all of a sudden, Dad gets a fail. And we see this bright yellow thing like under his shirt.
They were calling wardrobe. I said,
Yeah, they were saying wardrobe. And we were like, what in the world? And Dad had SpongeBob underwear on, and they were poking out the side of his thing. We laughed so hard, didn't show it. I'm like, dang it! Like that was one of his
I'm glad
fails.
they didn't.
Oh, that's great. Anything else? This is my last question. Anything else in the show that didn't happen or that you want to talk about briefly that like you feel like could use clarification or a fun moment from the show?
I think the loss of clarification is I went into it thinking a mile I had under control. Anything past that, you hire a personal trainer that pushes you and goes. Mine and her relationship is wonderful. We've always been very close. She's always been very open with us. We talk about everything. She calls me about everything. And her drive saying, come on, Dad, so many of those conversations were taken out of context. Like we had an agreement. If we hit stairs, I'm going to walk the stairs. We'll run at the top. She'd say, cool. She'd get to the top first, say, come on, Dad. And I'll just walk my stairs. We already had these things prearranged, but they made it look like she's at the top of the stairs screaming at me, which it wasn't like that. It wasn't demeaning. It wasn't disrespectful. It was okay. I made it to the top. Now come on, finish your walking so we can run. You know, we had an agreement too to run the field every single time, and that's what we did. And whether it was fast or slow, that's what we were going to do. And you know, she's egging me along the whole time. That's what teammates. That's what good teammates should do. I think.
Yeah. And from my perspective, I just think the last thing I would like to say is that my dad's my best friend, always has been and always will be. And
But I will pick up on something on last night's episode. They did say, "Come on, Dad." When I was in front, she was behind me, and they played "Come on, Dad." I was
I
like,
think
"Wait
they
a minute,
messed up.
I'm in the lead."
You're just always saying Annalie, regardless.
we need shirts that say it. So if anybody wants to send us a shirt that says "Come on, Dad," then we'll.
I just need one that says, "I'm with Come on, Dad."
Well, thank you guys so much, and have a great day with the rest of the press. Thank you.
Thank you very much.